Hello quest fans, and welcome to another episode of the History of Runescape Quests, a series in which I, Vamoria, guide you through the history of the many adventures that players have embarked on in RuneScape's storied career. The aim is to allow those who have completed these quests a chance to reminisce on the good times, allow those who haven't done them a way of catching up, and to give myself something to do now that I've maxed and I'm finished grinding with archaeology. In this video, I'm going to be covering the quests of the Knight's Sword, Goblin Diplomacy, and Pirate's Treasure, as well as a few smaller deleted quests. Remember to give the video a like, and let's get started. So the Knight's Sword is the first intermediate quest released, and this was on the 6th of April 2001. To start this one, you speak to a young squire named Azrael, who is pacing the courtyard of Falador Castle, fretting over the fact that he's lost his master's ancestral sword. The adventurer suggests recreating the sword, but Azrael says that it was created by a race of now thought to be extinct dwarves named the Imcando, so reforging one would be impossible. He points the player in the direction of our favourite /fiction writing librarian Reldo to see if we can get any information on these ancient dwarves though, just in case. Reldo informs you that the Imcando were thought to have been wiped out in barbarian raids on Ice Mountain, but that a few did manage to escape. They were last seen on the southern tip of Asgarnia, which is where we head to next. You find one of these dwarves, a man named Fergo, living in a hut on the coast south of Port Sarim, and he agrees to reforge the sword after you bribe him with some red berry pie, which is a bit of a cultural staple for his people. You're then sent back to Falador to find a picture of this sword, as Fergo will need it in order to recreate the weapon exactly. The picture is, let's say, momentarily borrowed from Sir Viven's cabinet and returned to Fergo, who is surprised to find that the hilt of the sword is gilded with Blurite, a rare ore that is used more for fancy detailing than actually making weaponry. Luckily, there are veins of Blurite within the nearby ice caverns. The adventurer must then brave ice giants and warriors to acquire some of this ore, which can then be returned to Fergo. He creates the sword, you return it to Azrael, and the quest is completed. Upon completion, you unlock the ability to create Blurite weaponry, which I distinctly remember lying to my newbie friend about. He was jealous that I had a Blurite sword, and I remember that I made up some nonsense about it being extremely rare, and he was blown away by it. I don't know why I did it, and I'm not sure if he ever realised that the Blurite sword was basically a fancier iron sword, so if you ever end up watching this, Dougie, I'm really sorry I lied to you, and I hope you're doing okay. The next quest to talk about is Goblin Diplomacy, which was released on the 8th of May 2001, and has gone on to become a bit of a meme within the community. It's a short quest, but the journey you go on is absolutely life-changing. The core idea is that the generals Bentnose and Wartface are on the verge of a civil war, arguing over what colour armour the goblins should have as they head into a new century. Bentnose likes red, and Wartface likes green, truly an irreconcilable difference. Trying to keep peace, the player suggests a different colour, maybe orange. The generals agree to the idea in principle and send you away to get some dyed orange goblin armour, which you get by providing some red berries and yellow dye to the witch of Draenor village, Aggie. While here, it's probably a good idea to give Aggie some woad leaves in order to make blue dye too. I don't know why you'd need it, as the goblins will obviously love the orange armour, but you return the new citrusy armour to them and they absolutely hate it. They argue back and forth again before settling on maybe looking at some blue. You show off the blue armour, and again, they are disgusted. They then decide that maybe brown might look quite fetching against their green skin. The thing is, the armour was already brown. They have a goblin try on this new brown armour and realise that they love it, and decide that brown is the way forward. This is one of those quests that only RuneScape could have, wherein the adventure is completely inconsequential to the world, and kind of pointless, but adds a whole lot of vibrancy to things, with the way that the goblins are, and the humour of the whole situation, and these generals will come up in later quests, so this is where they started. The final proper adventure for this episode then is Pirate's Treasure, a quest that has you casually breaking the loosely defined law. To start, you can speak with Redbeard Frank outside of the pub in Port Sarim, who will be bemoaning his lack of Karamjan rum. He offers the player a lead on some treasure that his old captain, One-Eyed Hector, hid in exchange for some rum from the jungle. Unaware of what this might entail, you agree to the trade and charter a boat to Moosa Point. Once on the tropical island of Karamjar, you can easily buy some rum, but experience some difficulties bringing it back. The customs officers on the island are searching passengers and will confiscate any rum that you try to take off the island. So having to think quickly, you decide to take up some cash-in-hand work picking bananas from a nearby plantation and use this as a way of smuggling the rum off the island. You place the bottle in a crate of bananas and make your way back to the mainland. Once on dry land again, you quickly talk your way into helping out in the Port Sarim food shop, where the crate of bananas from earlier was delivered to. You retrieve the rum, pass it on to Frank, and he directs you towards a locked crate in the Blue Moon Inn of Varrock. There you can find a map which takes you to Falador Gardens, where you can dig up Hector's treasure. Once you have, it's quest complete time. Another simple quest from a simpler time. Having looked at this one after Goblin Diplomacy, I can't help but feel this one is a bit of a step down quality wise. Maybe it's just me, but I don't find the idea of digging up buried treasure as interesting as diffusing a goblin civil war. As I say, maybe that's just me. Now, there were 4 quests that were released before these, but they have since mostly been removed from the game. So while I don't plan about talking about any of these in depth, as they've mostly been reworked into better quests, which we'll get to, I think it's important to reference these, especially with Black Knight's Fortress, which bucks the trend of being a bit boring and adding some interesting lore that still persists to this day. That one, though, is the exception. These removed quests were Prince Ali Rescue, which has you rescue the Prince of Al-Kharid Ali from a jail in Draenor Village. This quest was replaced with Stolen Hearts and Diamond in the Rough in 2012. It also had a bit of an iffy segment in which you had to dye Prince Ali's skin in order to help him escape, which is a bit of a yikes kind of moment and really kind of hasn't aged well as I make this in 2022. You also had Witch's Potion, which sees you provide some ingredients to Aggie the Witch so she can make a potion. This was reworked into a mini quest, so it's still technically in the game. Doric's quest was the gripping story of how you got some ore for the dwarf Doric in exchange for using his anvils. This was eventually reworked into What's Mine Is Yours in 2012, which adds a degree of plot that Doric's just did not have. Finally, you had Black Knight's Fortress, which is the best one of the bunch in my opinion. You get introduced to Ceramic Vase and the Temple Knights, a secret group of Saradominists devoted to destroying evil. You broke into the Black Knight's temple, snuck your way through avoiding detection, learned of a plot to create an invincibility potion, and ruined it by dropping a plain old cabbage into the cauldron where the potion is brewing. This quest was actually interesting, and I'm kind of sad that it's gone. The White Knights of Falador looked incredibly cool. It had this Mission Impossible / spy thriller vibe to it, and I have some really good memories of the cutscene where you see your cabbage falling from the ceiling into the cauldron. For some reason, that scene has stuck with me to this day, and I get the occasional chuckle thinking about it. It was eventually reworked into the Death of Chivalry, which is an incredibly cool quest, and follows the same sort of plot of invading the Black Knight's Fortress, just with a bit of extra lore and some neat little touches. We will get to that in its own time though, and that's the video. Please leave a like if you learned anything, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment detailing the most outlandish childhood lie you convinced someone of in regards to RuneScape. In the next video, we're going to look at the final boss of free-to-play quests, that being Dragon Slayer. I've been Vamoria, thank you for watching, and happy questing.